Welcome everyone to Tarot Journeys with Guy. How's everybody doing out there? So we have a huge Trump victory and all the celebrations, all the things that have been going on. It's been really great. This is definitely a huge thing. And with Trump in the landslide victory, winning the popular vote and all the swing states and the electoral college, all of it, sort of really speaks of where the direction of the people are moving versus what the establishment, the deep state, globalist run establishment is trying to move people. Now, I know that there's a lot of people that are still feel divided, and that makes sense. People should be able to have prevailing views. Okay, that's the nature of a democracy. Without those freedoms intact within a democracy, like freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, we're not able to have a discourse. We're not able to come together where there are differences and to see and what needs to be sort of, I guess, worked towards in order for those differences not to tear apart society. Now, this is just the beginning, okay? So really what we're dealing with is kind of, it can be likened to World War II. I mean, we're not in a victory situation just yet. This is like D-Day plus 3, plus 4. We've just created a beachhead. What we've got now is an establishment within, especially the United States, but all in the Western countries, that has been exposed and members of that establishment. Now, it's not the entire establishment, but it's certain people and groups of people that are there working within what's called the deep state, okay? Now, what was interesting is that Trump, right away after the election was called, I think it was a couple of days after, Trump had reposted his 10-point plan of dismantling the deep state. Now, this was great. You know, the deep state should be worried because this is exactly what we've been aiming for. So right away, this is something that he is going to attempt to accomplish. I mean, you have to kind of go back when he posted that. He originally posted it in March of 2023, but then reposted it, okay? And basically talking about going after the rogue elements and ending censorship and stopping the destruction of the checks and balances within the democratic system in the States that allows like these deep state globalist bad actors to get away with the crimes and the treason that they've been getting away with, okay? So that's super important. What else happened? Oh yeah, like right away after Trump had been, the Trump victory had been declared, you've got all of these rogue elements. You've got the Hamas leadership, you've got the Houthis in Yemen that are backed by Iran, basically asking for the end of war. Putin has basically said that he's open to whatever agreement that can be arrived at bringing peace. Okay, that was another one. And so it's funny, like the tables are turning, right? People are seeing the truth in all of that, right? The moment that the election was called, or maybe it was even like within that couple of hours, the deep state, the military, tested their first hypersonic nuclear missile. Okay, so that a very big tell of where the direction of things are going and where the deep state is trying to continually take us. Okay, and so this is one of the things that Trump has claimed, like first 100 days of office, first moments in ending these wars, bringing peace to the world. Okay, this is what we'll see. He's going to end the migration problem in the States and the open border invasion, okay? Locating the 300,000 plus missing children that have come across the border that have been cycled into this deep state system, okay? That's another thing. Ending climate regulations that limit the growth of industry. Awesome, right? So, and you've got industrialists over in China wanting to move back to the United States, China claiming that they want good relations with the US, right? So, and this is what we were hoping for. This is what we were sort of expecting, right? A lot of these celebrities that were out supporting Kamala Harris, well, these are deep state operatives. These are people that are probably on the P. Diddy list, on the Epstein list. It's part of the blackmail ring. If you don't go and support our candidate, we will trash your career. We will ruin your life. We will bankrupt you. We will take out family members. We will do terrible things to you so that you will follow along. That's what you agreed upon, right? So that's what we've seen. We've seen all of them coming out, right? And then afterwards melting down, some have gone completely silent. But the thing is, the rhetoric around labeling a vast majority, it's well past 50% of the population as being racist, being Nazis, being decrepit. That didn't work for the leftist Democratic Party. It hasn't worked in other parts of the Western world, right? But it's sort of, this is part of their game plan. That's part of the psychological attacks, the psychological operation, labeling your opponent and repeating it enough times so that it will stick, okay? And so that's part of it, prepping the sort of the scenario of some kind of, pushback, riotous protests. We've got a lot of different people in higher up sectors that are basically saying, no, I'm not going to go along with what Trump is saying. One of them was the head of the Federal Reserve, okay? And so what we are actually seeing is the taking part of this globalist order that has been in place since the end of World War II. We're seeing these people dug in. We're seeing these people doubling down. And that's what we're going to see. And so, what's next, right? This is another big thing that we've been sort of expecting, is that these guys are going to do a readout. They're going to come back, retreat, consolidate themselves, and move forward with their next operation, which is civil unrest and forever war, World War III, right? I mean, pandemic could be on the table too, like a new virus. That's something that, until that is sort of uncovered within this deep state infrastructure that they're doing this, all of these things are on the table. This is what I was alluding to at the beginning of opening this up, of democracy and freedom and liberty, and what that brings and what it means and our responsibility to it. Okay. And part of that is freedom of speech and exposing lies and untruth and tyranny where it exists, right? That was one of the gifts of the founding fathers of the United States and the Declaration of Independence and the US Constitution. They wrote into those very documents how to deal with tyranny. That was the whole intent of creating the United States, the Republic of the United States, right? Now, what that speaks for the rest of the world, patriots all over the world are, yes, seeing this Trump victory. What we are able to see from that is a turning. There has to be some kind of inspiration. There has to be some kind of representation of what I'm talking about. And the United States is one of those places, one of the only places. And President Trump and his team are those people that are there to do it, right? And so, wow, okay, so what we saw, another thing too, Germany, government in Germany is kind of shaky. Government in Canada is a little bit shaky right now. Right? All of these deep state run governments are losing it. Okay, so now what is the deep state? The deep state is a number of different things, okay? One big part of it is the non-elected establishment people and people that have been sort of elected over long periods of time as well, working within the government and the infrastructure of the government. That's one thing, right? The other part is the intelligence communities, okay? And how they operate with the military and everything, the military industrial complex. They're work hand in hand. These are non-elected people as well. These are people that are ingrained within the infrastructure. And then how that interlinks with big business, big pharma, banking, okay? And how these groups all sort of coalesce and interact together in the establishment. That, and I'm kind of simplifying it, but that's essentially what it is, right? In some ways, like continuity of government coming out of World War II and the threat of mutual assured destruction and nuclear war, its original intent was to create an infrastructure of a continuation of government in case of a disaster. Now, that kind of system has been co-opted. Same with the black budget programs in the United States, right? That's how this has been perpetuated. This is how these people operate. The other thing is like what we see with, this is what I was kind of leading to with like the big business, big pharma, banking, education. It's the NGOs and these groups that sort of exist around government also have a big part of it. And that's what we've seen with the United Nations and World Health Organization and other globalist organizations operating under the guise of these cutouts of these NGOs. Okay, so the United Nations Migration Program has largely been implemented from NGOs and the infrastructure of these non-government organizations. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. And that's what President Trump is talking about when he says the enemy within. Okay, and I think that there's going to be rapid change. The other thing too is like, thank God he got Robert Kennedy Jr., RFK Jr. in there and talking about health. And now it's the same thing. It's the same thing like with Elon Musk, okay? Right now, we have to take the good and separate it from the bad. And we got to realize, like, not everybody's perfect. But these two players are big, very influential. RFK Jr., I really appreciate his take on the health of the people and what is being put into our food and what is being put into our water and what is being put into the air. It needs to be addressed and it needs to be talked about, okay? And I like Trump's take on it. It's just like, you can deal with anything and everything except for the climate and oil and gas. And it's like, yes, sweet, I'm on board. Okay, so it's really good. We're going to see some rapid changes right away. But the thing is, for us, we as the people, everywhere, all over, especially in the Western world, we cannot sit back in any way, shape, or form. We have to push ahead. This is the final push. If we fall back and let these guys stay in place, they are going to reconcentrate themselves and double back and reattack and attempt to do it all over again. Okay. Now, and the other thing too is this, because we're in a very dangerous and scary kind of situation. Every time that this scenario has kind of come about in history, the repercussions of it are very violent. Okay. And that's the thing. Like, this is what the leftist Democrat-run deep globalist deep state has been pushing out there that the right, the populists, the people, the Trump team, the Trump supporters are going to get violent. They're going to come after people. They're going to lock us up and put us into camps or put them into camps. And it's like, no, that is you people are paid, scripted to project that out onto people. And what you are doing is projecting out what you are attempting to do to the other side. And so it has to stop. Now, Biden, interestingly enough, Biden came out in a concession speech, and wow, he spoke for about 7 minutes, no gaffes, very clear, basically saying he wants unity, that we need to accept the election, and that he is there to help in the transition, in a smooth and peaceful transition. Now, why is it that these guys keep saying peaceful transition? Now, we know what happened in 2016, 2017, and all through to 2020, leading up to the 2020 election, what the leftists do, right? I mean, these are the people that are rioting. These are the people that are destroying the cities, right? So it's kind of a funny thing. Like, is he gaslighting? Is he basically sort of saying like, oh yeah, it's going to be peaceful. Meanwhile, what they've got planned is more disruption. I don't know. I think what Biden is actually doing is, one, I think he's a little bit sore about how he was pushed out of office, and he's been caught. His family's been caught, and he does not want to go to jail, right? He wants things to be smoothed over. He wants to be remembered not for being a complete Manchurian candidate and a criminal, right? I think that the spiritual impulse that's behind a lot of this is really what's driving a lot of things, right? And to me, the real war has a lot to do with the spiritual essence behind all of this, okay? Which a lot of us feel, okay? So, and that's the thing, it's like, if things calm down and we enter into a time where, justice can be trusted, and our rulers, our leaders are good people, and the system is working towards the benefit of humanity versus the downfall of humanity, then that changes the perspective. But the spiritual sort of direction is kind of the same. This is what I was talking about in the last reading, the last video that I did, that humanity is still going to be moving in that direction, right? And that's where I think a lot of us are more positioned than, say, the political going-ons in the world, right? We are entering into that time where there are no separations, though, right? So that's the thing. It's like things are radically changing. They are shifting, and we're going to see some monumental changes, like some massive changes, and right away. So we have to be on the guard, and we have to be able to, we have to be vigilant of the deep states, the globalists' machinations and their agendas, and calling out the DEI, ESG policies that have been inserted, every aspect of business in some ways, right? In government, in schools. And just like what we saw with the election too, it's like what prevented the deep state from doing a ballot dump at 1 o'clock in the morning, like say in Pennsylvania, it was independent media. It was independent people that went out and was there and was like, hey, what are you doing? And stopped them. Elon Musk was there too, helping that out, I'm sure, right? But yet it was the independent media, and it had a lot to do with the people being present and just not letting them get away with it. It's kind of like when they want to start a civil war or a civil disruption, we have to be able to stop it, in its tracks. We have to be able to stop it before it even starts, right? So, okay, let's see. What do we need to know? What's the spiritual guidance for right now after this Trump victory. Okay, so the temperance card here. So past is right here with the justice, past, present, future. And this is the spiritual, I never know what to call it. It's like the spiritual guidance or the spiritual impulse. This is what Source is trying to, this is our spiritual lesson. This is what Source is trying to tell us. And this is the material world. Okay, and this is what we're found, this is the foundations of what the scenario is, okay? And these give advice. So the past, right? It's like, that was the other thing too. It's like all of the charges around Trump, all of this Jack Smith stuff and all of it got dropped. Boom, right? Justice is coming. Justice in 8 different directions. We know this. We knew this. We were watching this. I was watching this by doing the readings behind the scenes, right? So they started this action quite a while ago, right? 8 years ago, this started, right? So this has taken a very long time to get us to this point, okay? But for right now, as far as what we're going to see and what basically got the victory through was the actions that were taken in the Trump administration and then afterwards, okay? And actions legally. So partly the reason why they went after him legally was because what he was doing was his team was slowly kind of taking apart the deep state infrastructure that was in the judicial system that was going after him and other patriots, right? So the temperance card in the present, right? That's like, it's funny, it's the angel. It's one of the archangels, one of the messengers of God, right? And so in a lot of ways, it is this thing of we are being guided, we are being looked after, just like how we saw, like with President Trump almost getting eliminated. It's kind of like this thing. It's like the divine presence is always there. It's always looking after us. And in fact, this is part of that grander plan, that bigger, well, it's God's plan. It's the great mystery of everything. And we are taking part in it. The planet Earth is to take part in it. Okay? Super important. Very interesting, right? So, yeah, it's taken time to get to this point where we can enter into a healing and a cleansing, like what President Trump is talking about, right? But it's the old divisions that remain. It's the old pain, the pain from the past, like for instance, like partly the reason why people hate the United States right now globally is because of the deep state. It's because of the uniparty, neocon, leftist Democrat, and deep state that has been in there, that has been messing with other countries, that has been perpetuating war, experimenting on them, socially engineering them, pushing them into economic enslavement, right? That's one of the things, the healing that needs to take place, and people need to really understand that, right? Like for instance, the thing in Israel right now, Netanyahu, he's just as bad as Kamala. This is a deep state agent. This is why some of this stuff has happened in the time period that it did. Now, it's so funny how all of it kind of started to cool down, right? And seeing it's the same deal. Like there are elements there vying for a control as well, right? It's the same up here in Canada. That's why things are kind of like shaky, right? It's because the deep state apparatus behind all of this has been sort of dismantled, and like Trump getting voted in, and then the House and the Senate, not sure if the House has been concluded, but basically the Republicans are going to have all three, is essentially, is from what I understand. And even to the point of where we're sitting with how many seats, Team Trump is going to be able to push through with a lot of this stuff that he's saying, right? And just like, nobody's perfect, okay? And I don't necessarily think Trump went into all of this fully knowledgeable either, right? He's well equipped, but there was things that just like what he was saying, he had to find out. He had to find out who he could work with, who he could trust, who was his friends, who wasn't, that kind of thing. He's an interesting guy, right? When you listen to him, that interview with Joe Rogan was great, because you got to really hear candidly and unscripted what was going on in his head, what he went through. It's amazing, right? So anyway, mending of the fence and being able to differentiate between what's deep state and what isn't, what has been the push of the deep state and what hasn't, right? Okay. And so what's below it here is the Chariot. Now, spiritually, the Chariot card it's like a very enlightened card. It's the 7th card in the major arcana in the tarot, but it represents the mind, the higher mind, and accessing higher mind. And what happens when you access higher mind, activation of will starts to take place, right? But that activation and the directing of will doesn't come from our lower nature. It comes from our higher nature. It comes from the higher self and our higher faculties, right? And that's kind of what this is talking about, is accessing that part of ourselves so that we know when is time to act and when it's not. But yet that is part of the awakening process, and it's what is stopping war, massive war from spreading, because this can be a war card as well. This is this thing of activation of an action of some sort, right? Because the card itself, like this guy, like in the ancient world, like even before the Renaissance, there was no such thing as war chariots really. But in the ancient world, the rulers and the big warriors would drive these chariots, right? And they were very destructive. But this is an enlightened spiritual warrior, and he's directing his chariot with his mind, but it's two sphinxes that are drawing this, that are propelling his chariot, right? So this is what I'm saying. It's like the switch and the, transmuting the energies of the world in this way, being able to see circumstances in the world and see the material level of it first, maybe, but to be able to see the higher principles at work, the higher purpose, and to be able to transmute that. That's really important, right? Because what we're moving towards is coming together. We're moving towards a clear direction that the patriots, especially like Team Trump, have been working on in the last few years, and they're going to perpetuate it, right? They're also really keen on going after some of these subverted groups, okay? And that's a big part of that. That thing of Project 2025 is one of these subversions, unfortunately. I'm really pretty sure of it. I'm pretty sure it's a globalist thing. It's the same thing like with them going on about how Iran wants to kill Trump, wants to assassinate Trump, and then the Iranian government keeps putting out, it's like, no, we don't. No, actually we don't. Yeah, it's the deep state. The deep state has been trying to push us towards a war with Iran. Like, hey, I don't like Iran. I don't like the Iranian government either. No. I don't like any racist, intolerant, terrorist, criminal organization. No. Not at all, right? But they're just pawns. They're just massive pawns in a big game. And I know I know studying a lot, like nobody should really be afraid of Iran. I mean, yes, nuclear weapons are definitely scary, but what United States, all they got to do is snap their finger and Iran is non-existent. That's simple. And a lot of countries are like that. That's why you see the whole world kind of going, oh, wait a second. Oh, we're moving towards health and prosperity and getting along. Okay, yeah, we're on board. And we need strong leaders to perpetuate that. But it's this thing of the state of the world, right? I mean, and like you're going to see them reeling back on the BRICS stuff and all of this stuff, right? Yeah, it's like going after the infrastructure. See, and that's the thing. It's like we out in the world, part of our thing is to sort of mend the fence, to fix the division. Even though it's very difficult, like, I mean, yeah, I don't find it very easy, right? But yet we've got, right? So the hierarchy of things with the Hierophant, our experts, our leaders, they've been subverted. They're toxic. They're a lot of the time can't be trusted, right? But yet, this is where the rule of law comes in. This is where this system that we've established in the Western world with rights and people's rights. We don't want to take people's rights away at all. In fact, the best thing to do is to let these guys out in the open and let them speak. Problem is they get into power, these leftist, globalist, death cultist types, and, neocons and the far right types as well, right? But what we're dealing with is this leftist thing, I think, in a lot of ways, right? Where they've ingrained themselves and they start taking over. And so what they're like, this is the problem, right? And they have to be confronted and told no, right? This is illegal. This isn't correct. Because it's like been this thing of pushing us towards all of these divisions and sort of like a self-destruct. And that's not where we're heading at all. We're heading in the opposite direction of that, right? Yeah, the infrastructure, the open borders, messing with the kids, and war. See, all of those are in the realm of the government. And so, like, if it's a person's calling to go out, like, say, in the States right now, if it's your calling to sort of deal with what you see as corruption in this world and a problem, do it legitimately. Go to legitimate sources, right? I mean, part of like what I'm saying about the free speech and like online and stuff and calling these guys out, that's super important. But some of us in our professions and just where we're feeling ourselves being propelled, like some of us are being propelled to go and work within some of these groups or volunteer our time or whatever it is, right? And so it's important, right? But we have to sort of recognize that, like, because it's like all of it's still intact, right? That there's people out there to do that job, and we have to let them do those jobs right now. That's a big part of it, right? Because we're not in this state of total anarchy and none of that, and that's not going to happen at all. They're not going to get away with it, man. And they're bummed out, man. These guys right now are super bummed out. The deep state, they're just losing it, man. They don't know necessarily what to make of any of this because, well, after the Mar-a-Lago raid and then like this thing of Trump posting this 10-point plan to shatter the deep state, that was kind of a sign. It was sort of like the Patriot side was starting to put the deep state into a reactive mode. Whereas before we were reacting to what they were putting out, right? And So, and that's kind of where what we've got to do is keep putting these people into sort of a reactive state, like, and people need to use their voice. Like I don't think the United Nations should exist, nor the World Health Organization, nor NATO at all. No, I think they should be dismantled. This is a big part of the subversion. These are globalist organizations that we see these people moving back and forth in, right? That's what I mean, right? The more people talk about these things, the more that they can be addressed, right? And I don't think we should place blame on like for instance, the people that have been placed in the United States right now, like as far as like illegal migrants go and stuff like that. Man, they're just pawns, right? Some of them are victims to all of the crap that these guys have been doing, right? And so we, like, that's part of that spiritual impulse, is like we need to really see how we're all part of the same family, humans. It's a human family. And you can't, it's kind of like, yeah, the xenophobia and the racism, that's been already there in the world, right? But over long periods of time, those things have been healed as well. Like, I mean, what created the impulse for people to move around the planet and to connect with one another? And I mean, that's kind of what we're dealing with. Okay, what next? What can we expect next? What are they going to pull? Is there anything that is on the near future horizon, next few days, next week? Are we in the clear? Who do we have to pay attention to? What are the, like, I'm concerned with a readout. I'm concerned with these guys retreating and then implementing something after, especially after Trump is put into power, after the inauguration. So we'll see. Okay, let's see. What else is there? Is there anything, what do we need as the people we need to pay attention to? And not just in the States, but global. Okay, so people, 3 of Pentacles in this middle position here. So it's the right person for the right job, right? And so that's like what we're seeing. We're seeing President Trump bringing in all these people. Like, one of the other things is he named for his White House chief of staff the first woman to be the White House chief of staff. The deep state hates this stuff. He's supposed to be a woman hater, right? And it's like, no, he's not actually. Not at all. Like, the absolute opposite of that. Same thing like with President Trump being a racist. He is not at all. Not at all. This guy loves people. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. I've been trying to find where this guy is not telling the truth and false, and I can't. Right? He's true to what he presents, and that's the truth. And so, like, this is what it is like calling out these people where we can, right? They're scattering, they're scurrying, right? And we have to be able to sort of call them out. Are these people in the right positions for what they're doing, right? It's up to us to communicate this as the people. Right? This is what the election has shown us, is that we still have like certain things within our democracy that are intact, that work, right? And so speaking out to your politicians and to your officials and like writing letters and emails and getting active that way really works, especially when it's millions of people, right? But yeah, it's like weeding out these deep state bad actors that have been in place, right? Because yeah, they're working towards, it's like I picked up this about a year and a half ago. I guess when I started the tarot journeys with Guy, it was sort of like, oh, they're moving into this Cold War 2.0 period where they, you know, the deep state and the establishment, they want us to sort of believe that we're on the verge of war when we're really not, right? And like this kind of idea of, look over here, meanwhile, my hand is doing this, right? And so this is what these guys have been sort of implementing is the stay behind operations, right? And lodging people into positions that so they don't lose, but like certain key people in the top, once they're taken out, those people no longer have a direction, no longer have an occupation, right? They're like sitting ducks in a lot of ways, and that's what's been going on, right? It's been this big struggle with the economy back and forth. That's why we saw the Federal Reserve guy come out and say no. Might see the Federal Reserve dissolve. I hope so. I really hope so. Central banking needs to be taken out of the picture. Canada needs to get rid of the Queen and the King on its. Canada needs to declare itself as a republic. The whole thing is rotten. The royalty is rotten. Yep, completely rotten. Needs to be totally done away with, man. And that's what we're looking towards. That's what the plan is, right? But yet, some of these people that have been at odds for so long, like especially in this, in the upper echelons in these groups that have been at odds, they need to come to terms and come to a better agreement, right? This is what the Nazis did, actually. The Nazis did everything in kind of steps, and public opinion was really important, right? So everything was done sort of there was a lot of ruses and a lot of double talk and stuff. And I mean, if you study World War II history, it's kind of like, before the war was started, Hitler would basically pledge a lot of things to some of these world leaders and then turn around and renege on them. Like, I mean, one of the things was the German-Soviet non-aggression pact. When the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany came together and made a treaty, and then, right away, Hitler invaded Poland, right? And so, that's what we're dealing with, is the compartmentalized nature of this, how they've pushed this, and how the farther you get up to the top of the hierarchy, there's very few of these guys, but like the direction is top down, right? And so, and a lot of the times, like the middle management have no idea what the entire agenda is, or what the entire direction is, or what the entire aim of a project is. It's the nature of black budget or black projects, and that kind of, those kind of things, right? Secret, classified projects. You have people working on the same project, but there's different pieces that this group is working on versus this group, and they don't really know what they're working on, right? So I think that's what happened with the whole COVID, Great Reset, New World Order push, was that a lot of these people that were on board had no idea what the true agenda was. They didn't really know the full scope of the depopulation program, what transhumanism really represented. Like, man, like in the House of Commons in Canada, they commemorated a Nazi. I don't know, do I say this in every video? Because maybe I should, right? Because that's mind-blowing, right? And this is the kind of thing that woke some of these bad actors, some of these people that are in the lower levels. That's what woke them up, was understanding, like, wait a second, this is what you people are moving towards? Wait a second, Club of Rome and the limit of growth and the deindustrialization of civilization, doesn't that mean the end of where we're at? Yes. Well, no, I don't want any part of that. I have kids. What are my grandchildren? What kind of world is going to be left to my grandchildren? Oh my God, this is what I've been working towards. That's what I think has woken a lot of these guys up. I think that's what woke up JD Vance. Okay. This is what woke up supposedly Elon Musk. Okay. But that's the nature of what we're dealing with, is these guys, and some of them was like right away. It was like only a few months ago where they were like, oh my God, this is what's going on. Okay. And that's, yeah, I think that's what we're dealing with, right? So you seeing people switch sides rapidly, and it's good. We're moving towards the direction that we are envisioning. Okay. So yes, it could, I mean, we're inheriting a very damaged world in a lot of ways, right? But yet the turnaround can be really quick. Like, for instance, the economic situation that President Trump is inheriting is very dire. It was put there on purpose. Like he's even said, like, geez, that could enter into depression type scenario based on what the deep state has been doing with the economy, right? And so that's this proactive approach we're going to see very rapid. Like, man, I really hope he does get rid of income tax and all of that. I don't know about that. And this tariff system that he's talking about is kind of interesting, right? But no, we're moving in a direction that has been envisioned, and it's sort of needed. All of this stuff needs to be sort of worked out, right? Yeah, I'll just say it right now. It's like the way that the system is and the way that they've set it up, and without any kind of integration and taxpayers paying for all of this, and then not being able to sort of access any kind of anything that's within society there to help them, has to stop. It has to stop. It has to be shut down immediately. It is only going to ruin everybody's lives, right? That's one thing, right? Yeah, this thing of pushing people towards war, right? Man, like, it's crazy. They really are trying to push us over that precipice, right? But yet, like I was saying, the more that the people on the upper hierarchy of all of this stuff, when they start getting taken out, then the plan starts to fall apart, and it doesn't make any sense. Like, for instance, like if everybody in the world no longer wants war, and there's just a few groups there that are wanting war, what does that really say? Yeah, I didn't really see anything. I just saw a bunch of lies. I just saw like some of these deep state actors, these bad actors coming out and lying directly to people. I mean, and trying to get away with it. A little bit more guidance here. What else do we need to hear? What will help? What will be next, I guess? Some more of that, and then we'll close it off. Yeah, the struggle, like keep addressing this, right? So funny, all wands here, right? So like wands is that creative energy. That's our will. That's that spirit, that part of our spiritual energy that rises up, that gives us insight, that gives us ideas, that is inspiring. That's where we need to be with this. And like I keep saying, is like we're all needed to take part in this project. And part of this project is to first envision what the world will be, and then move towards it and act, right? And I'm coming from that holistic point of view of peace, prosperity, and goodwill to all, okay? And future generations of my grandchildren's 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 grandchildren kind of thing, right? And having that vision and then implementing it, right? But yet then not falling into some of the traps of the dividing lines, like dealing with rough people and dealing with intolerant people and that kind of thing. Like, what's the best way to navigate those things, right? By having conflict, sometimes we've got to remind ourselves that we're feeding into some of this dark side energy that is attempting to take over in the world, right? Sometimes we do need to stand our ground, but how do we stand our ground, right? Nonviolent action is the course to take, and not to feed into any kind of conflict that is being presented at all. Like, that just justifies a lot of the lies and the BS that the deep state globalists have been attempting to push, right? The mind, clear your mind, like, like just like how you have to cleanse your body, cleanse inside and outside, cleanse the mind, give yourself a break, clear the mind of some of this stuff. Some of it isn't our own. Some of these thoughts, some of these ideas, they're just not our own, right? Clear the mind when it's too much. This is such a good time to sort of lay down plans, to strategize, to sort of, get excited about this next, have that vision, right? Start small with yourself. If you can't, if you're one of these people, I'm kind of like that. You tell me, oh, you got to come up with a vision. I'm like, oh, what, a vision? Right? But then left to my own, with no pressure, I can come up with all sorts of things, right? So start small with it, right? You do not allow the negative impulse to throw you off of that track and that positive vision. The positive vision of peace and well-being and healing for the human family has been working. That's, in a way, what has shifted the intention and the energies on the planet. And it's going to continue to work. And so we got to not feed into what, like some of the projection and the fear factory. I mean, it's hard though, right? Because like some of those divisions are very real, and I don't know if they'll be reconciled, right? That's some of the things that what we're looking at. We have to always take a higher ground. And some of us that are spiritually active, like, it's really necessary to take that higher ground. Even though I know how challenging that is, it's really not always an easy go. I mean, I wish I had a little camera on me in my day-to-day activity. It's funny, I draw that card in relation to this card here. So, and this is what I was talking about, the meditation. Visualization and meditation and silence, clearing the mind, is really super important. That it really, in a way, that's how we charge our own spiritual battery, is by allowing the internal dialogue to still, and to allow that other part to continue to rise within us. That silence, that inner silence, that is the reservoir of our inner power, of that energy, right? And so, we need to kind of like we always need to kind of come in and, touch base with that, right? It's always super necessary. Yeah, because they're gonna really like for people that are kind of still watching mainstream media and stuff like that, like they practice cognitive dissonance. They practice creating confusion in the mind. They actively practice lying and projection. It's propaganda. And so this is the thing that we're going to see, is the ending of this kind of media system, because it's not working. The whole idea was that the media was there to call out any kind of discrepancy or corruption within the government. Well, the independent media is doing that now. And so there's no real need to go towards mainstream media anymore. It is a propaganda wing of this death cult globalist deep state that we've been fighting. And it's very obvious because they're liars, okay? But they want to project this thing of things are a lot worse than they actually are. And no, of course we weren't doing what we've been caught doing. What we're being prepared for is this monumental shift into this new time, and not a travesty, and not a major catastrophe. So that's what we got to kind of stay with. Okay, this is super important. It's in that way that humanity has always sort of maneuvered these times of conflict. It's the spiritual part of the human form that moves us. Things first come from spirit, not the other way around. And that's, we got to remind ourselves of that. Okay. So that's it for now. I hope everybody enjoyed. And so thank you, everybody. For everybody that got to the end of the video, I just want to thank everybody that is out there leaving comments and has been watching me. Super awesome. I read all the comments. I love them. I love you guys. You're wonderful. It helps me and it keeps me inspired and it keeps me going, and I love to see more of it. And so please leave a comment. Please tell me. I really am curious on what people want to see in this new time period. Is there a type of video that you want me to do? Is there something that you want me to change with this? Do you want me to keep doing the readings the way that they are? I really want to hear where you guys are at. So please drop me a comment or go over to my Instagram and leave me a direct message, or over on my X. And yeah, we will move into this new time period, and things are going to be rocking, and they're going to be super cool. Okay. So make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.